about 3 lakh tax cases pending before the first appellate authority with disputed amount of rupees 5.5 lakh crores. In order to reduce this number, I propose a new dispute resolution scheme. A taxpayer who has an appeal pending as of today before the Commissioner Appeals can settle his case by paying disputed tax and interest up to the date of assessment. No penalty in respect of income tax cases with disputed tax up to rupees 10 lakhs will be levied. Cases where disputed tax exceeds 10 lakhs will be subjected only to 25% of the minimum of the imposable penalty for both direct and indirect taxes. Any pending appeal against a penalty order can be settled by paying 25% of the minimum amount of imposable penalty. Certain categories of persons, including those who are charged with criminal offences under the specified acts, are proposed to be barred from availing of this scheme. I had in my budget scheme of July 2014 assured that this government would not retrospectively create a fresh taxation liability. I had hoped then that cases pending in various courts and other legal fora relating to certain retrospective amendments undertaken to the Income Tax Act 1961 through the Finance Act of 2012 would soon reach their logical conclusion. I would like to reiterate that we are committed to provide a stable and predictable taxation regime. We will not resort to such an amendment in future. I had also announced a high-level committee which would oversee any fresh case where the assessing officer proposes to assess or reassess the income in respect of indirect transfers by applying the retrospective amendment. In order to allay any fears of tax adventurism, the committee will now be chaired by the Revenue Secretary and consist of the chairman, CBDT, and an expert from outside. The committee will effectively oversee the implementation of this assurance. In order to give an opportunity for past cases which are ongoing under the retrospective amendment, I propose a one-time scheme for dispute resolution for them, in which, subject to their agreeing to withdraw their pending appeals lying in any court or tribunal or any proceeding for arbitration, mediation, etc. under BIPA, they can settle the case by paying the tax areas in which case the liability of interest and penalty shall be waived. Levy of heavy penalty for concealment of income has over the years resulted in a large number of disputes, despite a number of decisions of the Apex Court on interpretation of statutory provisions and principles guiding the imposition of the penalty. At present, the income tax officer has a discretion to levy penalty at rupees 100% to 300% of the tax sought to be evaded. I propose to modify the entire scheme of penalty by providing a different categories of misdemeanors with graded penalty and therefore substantially reducing the discretionary power of the tax officer. The penalty rates will now be 50% of the tax in the case of underreporting of income and 200% in tax where there is misreporting of fact. Remission of penalty is also proposed in certain circumstances where taxes are paid and appeal is not filed. Another issue which has led to considerable number of disputes is the quantification of disallowance of expenditure relating to exempt income under Section 14A of the Income Tax Act. I propose to rationalize the formula in Rule 8D governing such quantification. The said rule is being amended to provide that disallowance will be limited to 1% of the monthly average value of investment yielding exempt income, but not exceeding the actual expenditure claimed. As another taxpayer-friendly measure, I propose to provide a limit of 1 year for disposing of petitions for taxpayers seeking waiver of interest and penalty. The Income Tax Department is also issuing instructions for making it mandatory for assessing officers to grant stay of demand once the assessee pays 15% of the disputed demand, while the appeal is pending before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. In case of deviations, the assessing officer has to take orders from his superiors. The tax officer also has an option to the superior officer in case he does not agree with conditions of stay order passed by the subordinate officer. In order to remove the backlog of cases, we are creating 11 new benches of the Customs, Excise and Service Tax Appeal Tribunal (CSTAT). The monetary limit for deciding appeal by a single member bench is proposed to be enhanced from rupees 15 lakhs to rupees 50 lakhs. I also propose to amend the Senvet credit rules 2004 so as to improve the credit flow, reduce the compliance burden, associated litigation, particularly those relating to apportionment of credit between exempted and non-exempted final products and services. The amendments in these rules will also enable manufacturers with multiple manufacturing units to maintain a common warehousing for inputs and distribution of inputs with credits to the individual manufacturing units. Simplification and rationalization of taxation. The government has already accepted many recommendations of the Tax Administration Reform Committee, and I propose to accept a large number of recommendations of the Justice Ishwar Committee in this budget. To reduce multiplicity of taxes associated cascading and to reduce costs of collection, I propose to abolish 13 different cesses levied by various ministries in which the revenue collection is less than rupees 50 crores a year. To improve a cash flow position of the small taxpayer who get their funds blocked due to current TDS provisions, I propose to rationalize TDS provisions for income tax. The details are given in an annexure to this speech. Non-residents without PAN are currently subject to a higher rate of TDS. It is proposed to amend the relevant provisions to provide that on furnishing an alternate document, the higher rate will not apply. The facility for revision of returns hereto will be available to a service tax assessee only is being extended to a central excise assessee also. I propose to provide for an additional option to the banking companies and financial institutions, including non-banking financial companies, for reversal of the input credits with respect to non-taxable services provided by them by way of extending deposits and loans and advances. Our government has taken a number of steps to reduce the cargo release time and the transaction cost of exempt trade. I propose to amend the Customs Act to provide for deferred payment of customs duty for importers and exporters within the proven track record. In 2014-15 budget, I had announced the intent to implement. We have made significant progress in this, and it would be implemented at all major ports and airports starting from the beginning of the next financial year. The custom baggage rules for international passengers are being simplified so as to increase the free baggage allowance. The filing of baggage declaration will be required only for those passengers who carry dutiable goods. Use of technology and creating accountability. Technology is a boon for mankind. We plan to use technology in the taxation department in a big way to make life simpler for law-abiding citizens and also for data mining to track tax evaders. A pilot was run in 2015-16 for e-assessments to obviate the requirements of taxpayers to visit the income tax office. I propose to expand the scope of e-assessments to all assessees in 7 megacities in the coming years. The case selected for scrutiny will be scrutinized in an e-environment where, unless the assessee himself wants to be heard or for special reasons to be recorded, the assessing officer wants to hear the party, there will be no face-to-face contact of the IT department and the assessing. Income Tax Department will fully expand the pilot initiative of e-Sahyog with a view to reduce compliance costs, especially for small taxpayers. The object of e-Sahyog project will be to provide online mechanism to resolve mismatches in income tax returns without requiring taxpayers to attend the income tax office. I propose that in matters pertaining to income tax, government will pay an interest at the rate of 9% as against a normal 6% in case there is a delay in giving effect to an appellate order beyond 90 days. The officers who delay it will be accountable for the loss to the government. I also propose to change the procedure to provide for a shift from physical controls to record-based control for customs bonded warehouses supported by sophisticated IT systems. Madam Speaker,
My direct tax proposals would result in a revenue loss of rupees 1,060 crores, and my indirect tax proposals will yield rupees 20,670. Thus, the net impact of all tax proposals would be a revenue gain of rupees 19,610 crores. Madam Speaker, this budget is being presented amidst a global and domestic headwinds. There are several challenges. We see them as opportunities. I have outlined the agenda of our government to transform India for the benefit of the farmers, the poor and the vulnerable. Madam Speaker, it is said that champions are made out of something they have deep inside them: a desire, a dream, a vision. We have a desire to provide socio-economic security to every Indian, especially the farmer, the poor and the vulnerable. We have a dream to see a more prosperous India and a vision to transform India. With these words, Madam, I commend the budget to this House for acceptance. Madam Speaker, I rise to move leave to introduce the Finance Bill 2016.
Statement. Item number 2. Lay on the table statement for microeconomic.
Madam, I rise to lay on the table the following statement under Section 3 of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act 2003, Microeconomic Framework Statement, Medium-Term Fiscal Policy Statement, and Fiscal Policy Strategy Statement.
Now move the finance bill. Mr. Minister, now move the finance bill. Move to leave the introduced to finance.
Madam, I rise to move for leave to introduce the Finance Bill 2016.
Yes. The question is that leave is granted to introduce the Finance Bill 2016. Those in favor may say aye, those against may say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the leave is granted. The Minister may now introduce.
Madam, I introduce the bill.
Thank you. The House stands adjourned to meet again tomorrow, 1st March 2016 at 11 a.m.
झी 24 तास रहा एक पाऊल पुढे.